mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. How do we like our martial arts? In an empty warehouse in the desert for the 100th time!
That is about as excited as you can get right now for UFC Vegas 100. Yes, we have had 100 fight night cards. Well, we've had 99. Tomorrow will be the 100th fight night card at the world's most famous Apex. You see Neil Magny, you see Carlos Prates. They will close the show. A show that now only has 11 fights on it. And we'll discuss why and what this card, I guess what is left of UFC Vegas 100 on today's show. But thank you for joining us. I am Mike Heck, and joining me from Atlanta, Georgia, the hot take kid, Mr. No Gray Area himself, the one and only Jed Meshew. Jed, how we feeling?
I mean, it's a very mixed bag right now. I got some good feelings, got some bad feelings. Casey, throw the graphic back up because we need to appreciate our guy, Jose Youngs. Look at this. This is a dog shit ass card, and that man is taking no days off just putting out a banger of a graphic like this one for the preview show, for the post show. Shout out to Jose. The best thing that's happened this week.
Completely agree. It looks like Neil Magny and Carlos Prates are on the same Family Feud team, and they're frozen, and they're about to get up and go out the tunnel right up to their team podium for a chance to win fast money and $10,000. So great job by Jose Youngs. Great job by all of you, because if you're here watching us preview this card, you are the hardcores of the hardcores, because UFC Vegas 100 has become so UFC Vegas 100-y. I can't even put it into words, but I'm going to do my best. Weigh-ins happened not that long ago. We had multiple fighters miss weight. Zach Scroggin missed weight by 3 pounds, which is totally understandable because he's fighting Elizeu Zaleski on like 3 days' notice. Why this fight wasn't a catch weight of like 175 or 180 is beyond me. So that is an understandable one. Melissa Mullins, one of the 18 women's bantamweights in the UFC, she has missed weight as well. She missed weight by a pound. It appears this fight is going to move forward. And while both those fights appear to be moving forward, we lost the co-main event, Jed Meshew. Ricky Tercios versus Bernardo Sopai, no longer happening. A medical issue on the Ricky Tercios side. So for the second time this week, Jed, UFC Vegas 100 has lost its co-main event. And as of right now, according to UFC.com, the current co-main event for UFC Vegas 100 is Gerald Meerschaert versus Reinier de Ridder, the former multi-division one championship champion, which should have been the co-main event to begin with. So I ask you, Jed, are you now concerned for the well-being of Gerald Meerschaert versus Reinier de Ridder? Because any fight that ends up in this co-main event spot doesn't happen. It's not happening. What the deal?
I wasn't until like 20 minutes ago, because it wasn't, and now it is, and now I'm concerned. And it's right from the heart, right from the heart, Mike. This is a terrible week. It's been the worst thing that could ever happen this week. Freaking one championship is not in Atlanta, Georgia tonight as it's supposed to be. And so I have to watch Anatoly Malikin take on Rug on the opposite side of the world instead of being cage side for that freaking fight. Don't you dare take this fight away from me too, MMA gods. I won't stand for it. I won't have it. We got to get RDR here in the cage. We got to get the Gerald Meerschaert, just the middleweightiest fight. Honestly, this could be for the middleweight championship of the world right now. And so if we lose it, just give up. Let's just punt this event and we'll circle back to next week.
Yes. So I see you have a big number 3 written on your whiteboard. Is that your fart score for what is left of UFC Vegas 100, which is headlined by Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates? We do have a solid co-main event, at least for right now. Luana Pinheiro, Jillian Robertson, fine fight. And then we have Mansour Abdul Malik versus Dusko Todorovic. And then we found out Gaston Bolaños and Cortavius Romeus is now the newest fight added to the main card.
Cool. I mean, that fight maybe is fun. Whatever. Yeah, that's the fart score. Look, the main event is very good. We're going to talk about it. Well, very good is it is meaningful and could be fun. And Neil Magny has a penchant for being an underdog. I think that's worth. That fight is above a replacement level fight or a replacement level tussle. Obviously, RDR Gerald Meerschaert, that sings to me in particular. That's an above replacement level tussle. And then Jillian Robertson, Luana Pinheiro, those are both ranked women. And so by definition, it's above. You could, if you're feeling very generous, there's some other things about this fight card that I'm interested in that I'll kind of have a particular eye out for outside of my wagers this weekend. But like, those are the three good fights that are happening. And I do think that they are elevated enough to be a 3. So on paper, this is not the worst Apex card, though it really falls short of kind of what I was imagining for UFC Apex 100.
Yeah, the fact that Meerschaert versus RDR is not the main event is already a miss because middleweight should absolutely be headlining this card. It is the middleweight division that has carried the load of the UFC Apex in these headliners, from Sean Strickland to Jared Cannonier to Marvin Vettori to Jack Hermanson, and the list goes on and on. How do you not have a middleweight fight at the top of the bill here? This division is the reason we've gotten to UFC Vegas 100, Jed.
But at the same time, doesn't Neil Magny feel like a guy who should be headlining an Apex event of stature? Not just this feels right. He's the apex of the UFC welterweight division in general. So we're, not the same, maybe not, and certainly not what we envisioned. I thought for certain we were going to be getting a Holly Holm outing, something of that nature here. But look, it's fine. Also, shout out to Scapegoat. That was a terrific joke in the comments. And I want to shout you out because that made me smile.
What is the joke?
I'll let Casey throw it up on the board if he can find it. I have to go.
I am near sharp because I made my coffee too strong this morning.
This is a great gag.
Well done.
Look, it doesn't
take
take much. I'm not much more than an overgrown child, and that got me to giggle.
Yes, and I think we need positivity. We need smiles and perhaps the occasional giggle with what we are about to witness tomorrow. And you mentioned Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. Neil Magny, I spoke to him earlier this week. He said he was already confirmed for this fight. He said yes to headlining UFC Vegas 100 well before he knew who the opponent was. And Carlos Prates was actually booked for another fight. He was going to fight Randy Brown next week at Madison Square Garden. And then Carlos Prates hops in there, has the chance to move to 4-0 in the UFC, 4-0 in the UFC this year. He is the front runner right now for breakout fighter or rookie of the year, I guess, for that award. He's definitely a nominee for breakout fighter of the year with what he's put together. And he is an absolutely gigantic favorite heading into Saturday. So Jed, you used the word meaningful when describing this fight. How so? How meaningful is this? Why is this meaningful?
I mean, one, because as you pointed out, like Carlos Prates is probably going to be our breakout fighter of the year. If not him, it's his teammate, John Silva. Like, fighting nerds just having a big year for debutantes. But he will kind of surprise. John Silva is coming off of the big win, the short notice, stepping up against dude whose name I can picture his face and his beautiful jawline, and I can't think of his freaking name right now. There you go, Drew Dober. And like, that was the best of these wins until Neil Magny, because Prates wins this, he's gonna get ranked. I think Magny's 15 in the UFC ranking, so a win here means Prates gets ranked, and this dude is awesome. Like, I doubt he's gonna make a title run, but he's fun as hell, and just sort of like, I love everything about him. I love that he apparently just like rips cigarettes just all the time, and then just comes in and beats the hell out of people. Like, got a real old school Muay Thai vibe to him in that sort of way of being. And so he rocks. And this is not really a changing of the guard, because I also don't think Prates is going to be here for like a long time. It's already a little older, but this is farewell to Neil Magny as a top 15 welterweight. Here's a new exciting guy to add to a crop of exciting new names in this weight class. And so it's very meaningful in that regard. And like I said, he will, if he wins, he will certainly be the breakout fighter of this year. He's already on track to make my all violence team for the end of the year, likely. So, like, this is just a good fight. And if not, if Magny pulls this off, it's a massive upset. He's like plus 550 betting wise. And he sort of has historically had a penchant for doing this. So it is it is a fight with stakes, and it is a good scrap, which is all you can really ask for in this day and age.
Yeah. It's so funny talking to Neil Magny because he is fired up for this fight, like in the best possible way. He's just very positive about it. He knows people call him a gatekeeper and a litmus test and all these things, and he embraces the holy hell out of it, which I love. We also talked about all the eras that he has fought through, Jed. He's fought on the Spike TV era and the Fuel TV era and the Fox Sports era and now the ESPN era, pre-COVID, post-COVID, Apex, fans, no fans. Neil Magny has been a part of almost every era in the UFC during like its growth and where it is today. It is freaking wild how many fights this guy has had and how many different sort of generations of the UFC that this man has fought in. He is a treasure when we think about it. He's not going to win a world title. He's not going on a title run. He knows it. He wants these fights. He wanted to fight Khamzat Chimaev. He wanted to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. He wants to fight Carlos Prates. He does not care if he wins or loses. And he actually said, Jed, that this is his favorite era right now, despite not having all the success, because he's challenged more so now than he was at any other point in his career.
That's a really interesting way to kind of look at that as far as being an athletic competitor. Which I never would have thought of. Was like, because every fight he gets now is hard. Like, there are no softballs lined up for him at this point. And he's had 33 fights in the UFC, which is good for 7th all time. He's tied. He will move into a tie with with Jeremy Stevens for 6th all time once he makes the walk tomorrow. But like, yeah, if you do go look at his resume in the earlier years when he was still building a name for himself, there are people like Rodrigo de Lima, Alex Garcia, William Macario. Like, these are guys who nobody will ever really think about, even if you are watching. Like, at the time, like, I'm having to dial back into the Rolodex to be like, who the hell is William Macario? Like, what was going on there? Whereas in the last few years, once he established himself as a top dude, and the nature of how the UFC generally works, not all the time, but broadly speaking, once you are kind of a top tier guy, you don't get softballs. You don't take a step back. You are always fighting somebody who's extremely high level. So if your goals are entirely to test your abilities against the best opposition you possibly can, that's how you end up with Neil Magny. And like, that's how I can see how that matters to him. Like, hey, this is more fun. I know every guy I'm fighting is very good. I'm not just going in and picking up a paycheck. And slowly but surely, he is building a resume. And it's probably not a Hall of Fame resume or whatever, but he wins enough and he fights a dude. Neil Magny's going to be one of those guys we talk about, like Edson Barbosa, like who, yeah, they lost fights and they lost a lot of fights, but holy shit, look at the dudes they fought. Of course they lost fights. They fought an absolute murderer's row of people for a decade. So you're just not going to win all of those. So it's really interesting I did not see the quote from him on that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Since August of 2015, Damian Maia, Eric Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, Hector Lombard, Lorenz Larkin, Johnny Hendricks, Rafael dos Anjos, Carlos Condit, Craig White mixed in there, but he's supposed to fight Gunnar Nelson, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Leach, Anthony Rocco Martin, Robbie Lawler, Michael Chiesa, Jeff Neal, Max Griffin, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Daniel Rodriguez, Gilbert Burns. Yes, there's the Phil Rowe fight mixed in there. Ian Machado Gary, Mike Malott, Michael Morales. That is his resume the last 9.5 years of guys he's fought.
That's like the meme of like all the soldiers I think it was a Gary Larson cartoon, and then there's a dude in a clown outfit. He's just going through. It's like soldier, 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 clown, soldier, 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 clown, soldier, 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 Craig White, soldier, soldier. It's like, okay,
Yeah. But I mean, the strength of schedule is absolutely
it's
ridiculous. And
unbelievable.
obviously Carlos Prates has fought some decent dudes like the Leech. That is a win that really stood out to Neil, was him just going in there and thumping up the Leech, because Neil had fought Li Jingliang and he knows what it's like fighting that guy. He's a very tough dude. And Carlos went out there and pun, I guess, completely 10. And he went out there and smoked the Leech in that fight. Guy's real good.
Dude, yeah, like this is gonna be great. Also, shout out to Magny, because Magny's kind of always been this way, right? Where he's about the business, he's not about the bullshit. And it's like I distinctly remember Damian Maia submitted me. I'm just gonna go work with that dude and figure out how to be better at fighting, because my goal is not to win the title and do, like, my goal is just to be the best I can be. And I can learn from this dude. And I always got a great deal of respect for people who kind of have that energy. And so, like, I got nothing but respect for Neil Magny coming into this fight. I think he's about to get worked. But in his career, he is 9-9 as an underdog. Like, he is historically very good when the chips are against him. And I mean, we honestly saw that very recently. The Mike Malott fight, he saw how that went, pulled victory out of the jaws of defeat. And I like it. Carlos Prates is an incredibly fun fighter, and I think a pretty talented one. But the man does have flaws, and Neil Magny still has the ability to be the real check for, hey, are you really real? You know, not are you good, but are you legitimately a top 15, top 20 guy? Neil Magny is still capable of being the author of that test, and we get to watch it on Friday or Saturday. Today's Friday.
What to you would be the most surprising result? Would it be Neil Magny like winning and finishing him in like the second or third round, or would it be Carlos Prates going out and like 50-44ing Neil Magny?
Oh, when you put it that way, that's a really good question. Because I think Prates is going to win. I'd be really surprised if he doesn't finish Magny. And not to say that Magny isn't tough, but Prates is a violent dude. And Magny's getting up there, you know? Like, Magny can be finished. And Prates, when he smells blood, it's curtains. It's the guillotine. Like, we're just out of here, boys. So that's probably more surprising because, and again, it would be very surprising if Magny finished Prates early, but I could absolutely see Magny maybe surviving a tough early round and then sort of just veteran savvying his way to a later fight, you know, getting it into the fourth and fifth round and doing stuff. So both would be surprising, but I'll be really shocked if Prates has a day and doesn't finish him. That will be the most surprising thing to me.
Well, he is the huge odds-on favorite to have a day, minus 800 right now for Carlos Prates. The comeback on Neil Magny plus 550, and it seems like you expect Carlos Prates to go in there and do work. So how does this fight go? How does he get it done?
I do think he's going to go in there and do work. I have him in a parlay this week. Oddly, was not one of my favorite prospects coming off Contender Series, primarily just because he was older. I thought he would be a fun guy, but he's made such quick work of his opponents that he's gotten kind of launched up the rankings faster than you normally see. And as I has up to this point proven to have earned that, I think he's going to continue to do so. I think it's going to be a fairly early stoppage. He is just going to do Carlos Prates things. He's going to hit Neil Magny a bunch, and Neil Magny is not as durable as he once was. And so late first, early to mid second round, Prates starts really putting it on him, and Magny ends up folding.
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way at this point, but could get real interesting if this fight gets extended. You know, good old Carlos has got those smoker's lungs, so you never know. If this thing gets extended, you probably have to favor the experience of one Neil Magny in that situation. So, but I do think just the wear and tear. Michael Morales is a killer, and Neil tried to Neil Magny this thing against Michael Morales for as long as he could until Morales was able to get off the fence and land some shots. I kind of expect the same thing here. So Big win for Carlos Prates, and then he's probably going to be the MMA Fighting Rookie of the Year after going 4-0 with 4 finishes and getting a main event one in the process in the most historic event in UFC history.
I mean, it's extremely likely. What I like, do you guys, AK would for sure remember this. And so AK, shout out to you. I assume you're watching. Y'all remember when GSP was a coach on Tough, and I don't remember which season of Tough it was. And he brought his kickboxing. I don't actually know if he was his kickboxing coach or training partner or whatever. John Charles Skarbowski, who's like this French dude who lived in Thailand for 20 years. And he came in, and it was whatever season it was. I think it was the oh God, I can't remember. Can't remember the season. Brings in this dude to like, hey, I want you to train with John Charles, and all of the like edits from the fighters are like, this dude is insane. Like he smells like cigarettes and beer, and he just comes and he just effortlessly beats the shit out of us. it was whatever season Bruce Leroy was on. It's him, and there's just video footage of this like. He's not fat, but he's like a little softer on the middle, like a Muay Thai guy is, like a guy who's been doing it. And he's an accomplished Muay Thai practitioner or whatever. And he's just kind of effortlessly beating the shit out of people. And there's like, and he reeks of cigarettes, and like all he does. And GSP comes in and is like, John Charles would be very good. Like he would be the best fighter in the world if he took life more seriously. But he likes to smoke a lot and drink a lot and fight. And that's who Carlos Prates is. He's John Charles Skarbowski, and it rules.
Guys, breaking out, fighting nerds breaking out. What a year it has been. What a year it could be for him if he picks up this win over Neil Magny. Let's talk briefly about the brand new co-main event. I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. The wily veteran Gerald Meerschaert welcoming Reinier de Ridder to the UFC. Jed, is this the way to debut one RDR in the UFC, matching him up against Gerald Meerschaert, or would you have gone a different direction with this one?
Actually, this is pretty close to perfect, right? Like the only quibble I have with this is that Meerschaert isn't ranked, and RDR should probably have gotten like the opportunity to get a UFC ranking in his first fight. Former 2 division champion in 1. I know he lost. He lost to Anatoly Malakin, who's one of the best fighters not currently under UFC contract. And also, I'm not saying anything. I'm suspicious of Anatoly Malakin's ability to make middleweight under non-one championship rules is what I'll say there. That man does not look like he's weighed 185 pounds since he was in maybe the 6th grade. So sus about losing that particular belt. But other than that, this is perfect matchmaking because here's the thing about RDR. He can't kickbox for shit. It's terrible. When I originally was like, when I made him one of my guys, it was like, he's the one champion. And I watched some fights. Like, he's really fun. And mostly I kind of did it as a gimmick. I was like, he's Dutch. Surely he'll learn to kickbox, right? Like they do a lot of that there. He can't kickbox for shit. But he's a really fun grappler. And Gerald Meerschaert also can't really kickbox and is a fun grappler. So we're looking at like a very good stylistic matchup for something that hopefully will not be 2 really bad kickboxers kickboxing and will mostly be 2 guys on the floor exchanging in fun little scrambles. And I think that should favor RDR, but I think this is the perfect, hey, how do you do? Let's introduce yourself to the fans. Next fight up, we can, get you somebody in the middleweight rankings. That's the only thing. This fight would have made more sense if he could have just immediately gotten a ranking off it, but this is pretty good. Pretty good nonetheless.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I really, really am. Right now, the betting odds favor, as you like to call him, Reinier de Ridder. He is the minus 310 favorite. The comeback on good old GM3, who is, if you follow the MMA scene on social media, Gerald Meerschaert has become sort of the Chuck Norris of MMA, and it's absolutely hilarious. But the comeback on Gerald Meerschaert is plus 250. So, Jed, are you picking your boy, Reinier de Ridder, in the co-main event tomorrow?
Shout out to you, AK. Reinier de Ridder all the way. I think he's the better grappler. And so while Gerald Meerschaert is a good grappler, he also has this weird penchant to, because he believes in his grappling, but he's not like the best grappler. He's a very good one. He also gets subbed a lot. He's like, I'll just grapple with this dude. And sometimes that doesn't work out. I kind of think the same thing's going to happen because I do think RDR is the better grappler. And so I even have a wager on RDR by submission. Mostly, I just hope this fight is fun. I do very much hope RDR gets to win because he would be a good addition if he can get like meaningful wins and be a relevant middleweight, which I think he certainly has the capability of doing. And we've talked about middleweight a lot this year. It's a division on the rise. Adding him into the mix would only make things better. And so I think he's going to do that. I think he's going to beat GM3, and then we can move on. And as the Dutch Knight rises up the ranks,
I'm torn on this one, Jed. I truly am torn because while I respect your care and your admiration for one Reinier de Ridder, I almost have Gerald Meerschaert is just the best. Like, he really is just the best. And I don't want to see anything bad happen to him in any sort of way. And this, to me, screams classic Gerald Meerschaert middleweight fight, where de Ridder somehow, even though, as you said, is a bad kickboxer. I actually think Gerald Meerschaert is a better striker than Reinier de Ridder at this point because of all the work he's done at Kill Cliff FC. You could definitely see the improvements in the stand-up. Although him trying to kickbox with Edmund Shabazi was not the greatest idea in the world, but he could probably win a kickboxing match with Reinier de Ridder. Reinier de Ridder is probably going to dump him on his head and have him in absolutely just horrific danger. But Gerald Meerschaert is very, very tough to stop, very tough to submit. I think the last time he was subbed was like 7 years ago by Jack Hermanson. And I think if this goes to round 2, people talk about all these different creatures, these different gimmicks in these rounds, like third round Charles Jourdain and third round Derek Lewis and all these different things. Second round and third round Gerald Meerschaert is like a totally different person than round 1 Gerald Meerschaert. So I don't have a bet on this fight, but if I did, I'd be betting the plus 250 on Gerald Meerschaert. I think he wins. I think he spoils the debut of Reinier de Ridder, and I think it's going to be fun as hell to watch no matter what happens, Jed. This is going to be a fun scrap.
I look, I've been wrong about a lot of things this year, so I could absolutely be wrong. I even agree that like ostensibly GM3 is the better striker. I don't know. Anatoly Malikin killed RDR, but it still kind of took him a minute to kill RDR. And so like I don't think that GM3 is going to just like club him. And so I think they're going to grapple and RDR is going to do it and it'll be okay. And maybe this is just me projecting because that's what I hope to happen. But I guess we'll find out, assuming this fight doesn't fall apart in the next 24 hours, because apparently the co-main event is cursed.
Yeah, he can take lessons from Ong Ling Sung, who has fought RDR twice, who trains with Gerald Meerschaert. So he's getting notes. He's getting notes from all these guys who have shared the octagon or shared the cage with, or the ring notes with RDR. So get those notes.
How did those fights go for old Along Song?
Well, the first one did not go very well. The second one went a little better, but still not great. But,
right.
Because those who can, and those who can't, tell other people how to do it. And that's maybe what the situation is going to be.
I also have a lot of love in my heart for RDR because after getting absolutely steamrolled by Malikin and their light heavyweight fight, he's like, yeah, I just screwed up. He's like, I got complacent. I'd won 16 fights in a row. I'm going to take him down easy. Like now he's coming to middleweight. I'm focused. I'm going to take him down easy. And then the exact same thing happened. It just took longer. Like he was more durable, but he was never remotely competitive. He was just like getting killed. It's like, I love it. When fighters are delusional in a funny way, it makes me laugh. And RDR has a little bit of that in him.
It's gonna be fun. I'm honestly looking forward to that fight more than anything else on this entire card, including the main event. We have Gaston Bolaños, Cortavius Romeus, Luana Pinheiro versus Jillian Robertson. Despite Pinheiro being the higher ranked fighter, she is a massive underdog. What are you clapping
Casey,
about?
throw Lazy Bed's comment up. I mean, this is poetry. This is prose is what this is. Or not. There we go.
After leaving the restroom, I thought I'd gotten to Ridder all of my contents. However, Meerschaert proved me wrong.
I mean, that's just, you tip the cap. That's all you can do to that. Way to go, Lazy.
Well done.
That's what this fight card is us making poop puns.
Yeah, because this
all we can do about Apex 100.
We got Mansur Abdul Malik against Dusko Todorovic. I think Dusko Todorovic is there to do what he is very good at doing. That's kind of what he's in that spot for. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, your girl, Jed, fighting Denise Gomes.
Mansour's one of my guys too. I loved him coming off Contender Series. And Koala Bear, respect. I have a bet on her. I don't know that that'll pay off, but I don't buy Denise Gomez either. So we'll see.
Elizu Zaleski versus Zach Scroggin, promotional newcomer. Matthew Semmelsberger, who you have predicted almost all of his fights as of late, versus good old Charlie Buffalo. You got Cody Stamann.
I'm backing him again, and I'm going to lose money. Like, all I do is lose money on Matthew Semmelsberger, and I'm doing it again this week. He's going to be comically larger than Chuck Buffalo. He's going to be comically larger, and then he's just going to suck. It's going to be so dumb, and I'm going to hate it. And I knew as I was clicking in the bet, I was like, this is a bad idea. And I can't get away from him because he's a big fella, and he should be better than what he is. And also, I don't care for Charles Radke.
Cody Stamann, Damon Blackshear is going to be a really good fight. Cody Stamann needs a win badly. His career has just been real weird as of late because he's got all the skills, he's got all the tools, and just can't find a way to get his hand raised. Trayshawn Gore versus Antonio Tricoli, and Melissa Mullins is back against Claudia Segula. That is the opener of Vegas 100.
Tough start to tomorrow.
How dare you? Women's bantamweights. We need.
I'm not talking just about that fight. I'm talking about the first 8 fights. Yes, the opening fight of the card, arguably the worst of them all. But oof. This is, if you guys got loved ones who you haven't seen in a while, I would encourage you to do that tomorrow. If you don't,
we got a nice tight 11 fights. There's going to be so much John Jones love being spread throughout this event, and we'll leave the John rants till later because I'm sure the peeps are going to ask about it. It's the go home show for UFC 309, so they're going to talk about that. Perhaps we'll get a UFC 310 main event out of this card some way, somehow. That would be pretty cool. And 11 fights, 4 p.m. Eastern, prelims, 7 p.m. Eastern main card. Those are all good. So hopefully we're not dealing with the Edmonton slogginess here.
I hate that you just mentioned a thing that's true and that it will just be all 309 John Jones stuff. Can I tell you, I have been waiting for this week for months. I wanted this week to come so bad because I am not to get political. I just wanted it to be over so I don't have freaking ads. I am tired of trying to watch football and every ad is a political ad. And that is now finally over. And I got to tell you, I can't wait for next Sunday and the John Jones thing can be done. I just need it to be over and we can all move on with our lives.
Yeah, but it won't be over. We'll still have a whole other week to talk about what may or may not have transpired at Madison Square Garden. So with that being said, because I'm sure we're going to get questions about it, let's bring in E. Casey Leiden, producer extraordinaire, the baddest stash in MMA. He's got a hoodie on, but no sleeves. Always a terrific combination. He's got the overhead bicep pose going. And look, I'm sure the people are enthused and they're excited and they can't wait for UFC Vegas 100 tomorrow. But we can talk about whatever the hell we want here at this point. So, Casey, what are the peeps talking about? What do they want to talk about?
Let's get it out of the way with this super chat.
Tanvir, what do you guys think of the UFC's influence in the latest election? Dana, Rogan, etc. Jed, what do you think?
I assume that it's not zero. I think it is probably not massively significant. Frankly, it's just not my purview. Like, I don't do this stuff, so I do not know to what extent that held sway over male voters 18 to 36, which is like the UFC's primary demographic. So, like, my view is less that that the UFC is swaying voters in one direction or another, and more that they are just aligned interests. If you like the UFC historically, fandom wise, like, you probably lean more to the right of the aisle, and so these are just composite parts of a piece that work together as a whole. Less so like they're reinforcing their own narratives, if that makes sense. You could convince me that they had a role. Like, you would need to show me how specifically, but particularly in the aftermath of the election, I think that what happened is explained by many other things, not much this part.
Yeah. I've seen people in this space say that this election was won by Trump because of these individuals. And I'm with you. I don't know for sure how true that possibly is.
Wildly incorrect.
100%. And I think there's other aspects to this as well. I will say this, though. There's no doubt that Dana White and the way he promotes his sport currently was a formula that Donald Trump used to win this election. There's no doubt about it. There's this, hey, the people who are going to vote for us, we're already going to vote for us. Let's target the people who are on the fence. And how do we do that? Not with normal political stuff. Let's go on with Aiden Ross. Let's go on Bussin' with the Boys. Let's go on with the Nelk Boys. Let's target the people who have no freaking clue what is happening right now, and let's get them on our side. And that's exactly what the UFC does right now. It's exactly what they do. They do not cater to us. They do not cater to the hardcore fans. They have us. They know they have us. That's why they do not care about us. They care about the people who think they can beat the fighters in a fight, who have no idea what the sport is all about. That's who they're targeting. That's why they're pushing John Jones versus Stipe. That's why John Jones is a huge thing, that part of the advertising in sports. People know who John Jones is. They're at least intrigued by the name. So they will use this to try to get casual views. And that's kind of what's happening with the political stuff. Not to mention, well, we won't really get into this, but there's no doubt that it helped. There's no doubt that it helped. But to say that it was the UFC's influence that won him the election as a whole, I don't think is wholly accurate.
I think it's wildly inaccurate. This wasn't a close election. This was not particularly competitive. If you like, that would be true if this were like nip tuck. Maybe you could say, oh, he got like an extra percentage point. He just beat the hell out of her. Like, that's it. So like, that didn't happen because Joe Rogan gave a day before endorsement on Twitter. Like, it's just, people wanted him in office and they elected him in office for any number of reasons. Maybe a few people were brought to that through the UFC. I think it is far more likely that this is just how the 70, 80, however many millions of Americans were going to vote anyway. Voted.
Yep. I agree.
It's sports washing. This is what strong men do. It's just how it goes. I talked to lots of, outside of work, almost everyone I relate to or talk to are involved in MMA and under 30, and Rogan and Dana and just, all of that. It had an effect. Did it swing the election? No, but I think it definitely swung a few points in that demographic. So Thank you.
Yeah, I think it had some effect. I don't think it had, as Jed said, I don't think it had zero, but
Well, we're talking about
I don't
influence,
think
you
it,
know.
yeah, I don't think it's like the reason they won. I think Trump probably wins without that help, if we're being honest.
Yeah, but
The
I
way
think
that
I
the other
think
side
Trump would
ran
have
their
very
a big
clearly
thing was
won
the
had
swing in the Gen Z male vote, and the Gen Z male vote was way heavier on the Trump side than people anticipated.
that's
And
the
this
one that's
is
true.
Dana
He
Rogan
picked up
is the
points.
Gen Z male. Yeah, he picked up major
He picked
points
up points there. If Rogan had a whatever and came out and endorsed Kamala, and Dana did, it would not matter. Trump would still be in office. Some of his demographic numbers shifted, and again, I am more likely to ascribe that as part of a whole as opposed to specifically to this, as that those more of Rogan and Dana are a reaction to public sentiment less than they are drivers of it. That there's large points of data and sort of research into kind of a rightward shift towards the young male demographic in this country. And maybe these are reinforcing ideals, right? Like maybe the UFC, Rogan, that kind of apparatus is also is helping lead this, but also I think it is reacting to the shift anyway. So, like I said, probably some marginal. I would need concrete evidence to be like, it was a major reason why the young male demographic shifted right.
Yep.
And it could.
But thank you.
You could show me that, but yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
Thank you much. Tanvir. We have another one from you, sir.
Any opinions on Conor's latest transgressions? Will he continue to get a pass? So if you guys have been following along, he is in court right now, and there are some folks on site who are doing the Lord's work and putting out threads of everything that has happened. I don't know. Does he continue to get a pass here? I don't. I'm not there, and not saying that like the Irish Mirror is wrong, but we're not there. We don't have like official court documents. We don't know. So you have to be very careful when you report this stuff. But let's assume that everything that we're seeing is true, Jed. How does he get past this?
So we're clear. This isn't the latest transgression. This
true,
is
yes.
the court case of a transgression that previously happened. Two, I'm like 98% sure that this is correct, but I'm giving myself a little out in case I'm wrong here. This is not a criminal prosecution. This is a civil prosecution for the alleged incidents. And that is relevant, not in you adjudicating whether this should matter to you as a person, but just as a statement of fact. I cannot speak for Ireland, having not grown up and lived in Ireland. In this country, people largely don't give a shit about civil cases rendered against you. They may or may not in general, honestly, not to bring this back to the election. Trump has 34 convictions that didn't stop him. Like, people don't really care about that unless they want to care about it. Like they need, and so certainly some people care. Like some people, that was significant about Trump. Millions and millions of Americans did not care. And the same thing is kind of true here. Like if this comes out and he loses his civil case, the fact that it's civil will, I think, almost by definition, make Conor supporters in general not care at all. And largely just let people be like, well, he's not going to jail. It must not be that bad. And just in general, there's a lot of leeway. If you are popular, you have an infinite amount of rope to do almost anything you want. And Conor is very, very popular. I will be surprised if this, and I encourage you to go read the Irish Mirror reporting. We have talked about it internally. We will have sort of a write-up at the conclusion of all of this, but don't really want to do piecemeal one by one of it for something that we're not even covering like in person. But if you read the Irish Mirror reporting, the people in the courtroom, kind of the allegations, it's bad shit, guys. It's super not cool. What is being alleged, certainly not convicted at this point in time, but I just kind of doubt that Look, man, like Conor's had a lot of things alleged against him and people still seem to like him. It's tough for me to think that this is the one that will get him, even though it's objectively very bad, in my opinion.
Okay.
All right. Thank you much. All right. Let's get through these super chats.
Jay, shout out to Casey for his response on the Rogan endorsement.
All right, Chase.
Achilles Jr., screw the politics. I just want to see Stipe sleep John. We got the duck and the chicken. All right, Jed. I think this is the door opening. We might as well get into it, Jed. I talked to John Anik about this earlier today. That interview will come up on the MMA Fighting YouTube channel sooner rather than later, I would assume. But I told John, I feel like we've been talking about this fight for a decade. Like, I know we haven't, but it just feels that way. Nothing has been talked about more on Between the Links ever than Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Nothing has been discussed more. And now we are currently 8 days away from this fight happening. And now what that means is the UFC is starting to give interview opportunities for certain fighters, and they will give them out accordingly to who they like most, etc. Jon Jones spoke to Kevin Iole, and this is a very big deal. And Kevin asked Jon, what's going to happen? Is this your last fight? Are you going to fight Tom Aspinall? And Jon essentially said something he's been saying for a year now. No, I'm not going to fight Tom Aspinall. He hasn't done anything. If I stay, I'm going to fight Alex Pereira. And the reaction to this, especially on social media, has been hilarious to me because they're shocked by this. When in reality, this is what we've been saying
to any of our programs.
Just listen to any of our shows. We've been telling you that this is what is going to happen. He has said this in the past, that he thinks Alex Pereira is more of a legacy fight and will have more meaning for his career than Tom Aspinall. And there is no denying that Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira is the biggest fight the UFC can make right now, with or without Conor McGregor. I think Conor might throw some wrenches into it depending on who he fights, but Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira is ginormous. It will break gate records. It'll break pay-per-view. It'll do great on pay-per-view. It'll get the casual audience. It'll get the hardcore audience, even though we want to see the fight that should be happening against the interim fucking champion, Tom Aspinall, who a year ago won the interim belt, and who a year ago on all of these shows, we said putting an interim title on this fight with Sergey Pavlovich was the stupidest fucking thing the UFC could do because we're going to have this problem. And this is exactly what we're having. So Jed, your reaction to Jon Jones, his interview with Kevin Iole, him saying it's Alex Pereira, not Tom Aspinall. Is this Jon Jones being a heel? Is this him trying to get headlines and stir up controversy? Or is this Jon being Jon and being real here?
I'll give it like a 5% chance that Jon is incredibly self-aware and is intentionally being a heel and then is going to fight Tom Aspinall. I think that's deeply unlikely. If he does, credit to him. Like genuinely, if Jon goes out here and wallops Stipe and then gets on the mic and is like, "Hey, y'all been talking shit. Okay, Tommy, let's go." Kudos to you, man. Like, played the long game incredibly well, turned yourself into, like, you're supposed to be heel anyway. I know you like spent much of your career trying to be like the good guy. You're just not, like, because you are not one. So you are not that. So like that would be an unbelievable play. I am deeply skeptical. Like, I will need to see it to believe that. Instead, I think this is Jon being Jon. This is, in no uncertain terms, the most transparent case of ducking a fight since Jermaine Durandamy abandoned featherweight because she didn't want to fight Chris Cyborg. Like, there is no bigger case of it. And I've said a million times, I understand it. He is not wrong to say that the Pereira fight is a bigger monetarily. Legacy is irrelevant at that point. But it is the bigger fight, and it is, at least ostensibly, the easier fight for him. Terrific prize fighting. If you can finagle it so you get that fight instead of the Aspinall, I mean, that is good career management. But being right absolutely does not change the fact that this is a transparent ducking of him. And I am so skeptical that John is being self-aware and doing this intentionally, because like then he just goes and tweets. And when John tweets, the man's in his feels. Like he is not tweeting he is tweeting because he is mad. And you guys, you're not calling me the greatest fighter of all time. You got to call me the greatest fighter of all time. You got to do it. You got to do it. You can't. Habib's the pound for pound best fighter. No, he's not. It's me. You got that is how he tweets. And I have honestly nothing else to say beyond this, because John said everything that I need to say on this topic in a tweet issued 2 hours ago. This point in my career, every decision is rooted in purpose. My journey isn't dictated by hype or outside opinions. It's about crafting a legacy that speaks for itself, one step at a time. And John, you are 100%, absolutely, no doubt about it, correct. Refusing to unify your belt with the interim champion to instead fight a 42-year-old man who has not won a fight in 4 years, and then again refusing to unify the title after that in pursuit of a title fight against a champion of a weight class one below you. I think that speaks for itself. Like that, his actions are very clear. Trust what people do, not what they tell you. He has very clearly made it known what he is going to do, and I can't blame him for it. But everybody should probably stop being like, no, this is honorable and defensible. It's not. It's business.
What do you think about this, Casey? Is this a setup? Is he setting us up? Are we going to get the,
no.
The Kareem Saeed from Oz, I will not take your pardon moment where it's just like, holy shit, he actually is going to fight Tom Aspinall? Where are we at here?
I put like 95% of the blame in the UFC, honestly.
100%. Yeah.
One or two things: strip John or strip Tom of the belt. That's all to me. Strip either one of the belt. Wait, go back to the JDR Jermaine Durand thing. Didn't she vacate the belt not to fight Cyborg?
Yes.
See, that's a big difference. John needs
that
to
was
vacate
like
John needs to vacate the belt. Just vacate the belt and take your little legacy fun big bag of money fights. Just vacate. It
actually
the
is possible that she didn't vacate, but that they stripped her because she refused. I don't remember.
Either way, she lost the belt.
Same.
Yeah, she lost the belt because of it, and that's why I put so much of the blame into the UFC.
You are 100% correct in that as well. Here's the difference for me, and it's very, very simple. The only reason I have issue with this from John's perspective is because he's fucking lying about it. And that's the problem. I don't give a shit what you do if you were being honest with me. You can be a transparent piece of shit if you're just not going to tell me you're something else. And it's like, I don't have the quote, but Tom Aspinall hasn't proved anything. He has more wins in this weight class than you. He has more title defenses in this weight class than you. He has proved enough. He's the interim champion. Literally the only thing that Tom Aspinall can do to prove more is to fight for the undisputed belt, which you are gatekeeping him from. It is a lie to say that. Just be honest. Don't say Alex has proved stuff. No, say Alex is an easier fight for more money. Mm-hmm. Say that, and I won't speak a goddamn word against it. But if you continue to piss on my head and tell me it's rain, I will continue to say you are ducking this man.
What a time. By the way, written by our own Guilherme Cruz back in 2017. That she was stripped. Jermaine Durand was stripped.
I don't remember if she vacated or not, but same core concept.
But essentially, the UFC go fight her or we strip you because you are the champion. You shouldn't shoot. You fight the number one contender. And this is what is crazy with Dana complaining about rankings and all this crap and stuff like that. Tom is the guy. Why do we have rankings? Tom's the guy.
It's not even rankings. He has an interim championship. I know. He's the number one guy. He has a belt that says I'm next.
I know. It's just
This is the UFC. This is the UFC's statement on the Jermaine Durand thing. UFC has informed Germaine de Ridder and her management team that she is being removed as the women's featherweight champion due to her unwillingness to fight the number one ranked contender, Chris Cyborg Justino. Subsequently, top contender Justino will now face newly signed Invicta FC featherweight champion Megan Anderson for the UFC women's featherweight title in the co-main event of UFC 214, Cormier versus Jones 2, July 29th in Anaheim, California. UFC maintains that any champion, this is my favorite part, UFC maintains that any champion is expected to accept fights against the top contenders in their respective weight classes in order to maintain the integrity of the sport. That's the closing statement. The closing sentence of the statements the UFC sent out, stripping Germaine de Ridder of the UFC women's featherweight title.
We need to get Jose and just put these out there, like a little blast from the past. Hey, teach these fans some history. Wait, say that last line. The integrity of the sport. What was that? That when you put those words together, it just confused me. I never heard integrity in sport.
UFC maintains that any champion is expected to accept fights against the top contenders in their respective weight classes in order to maintain the integrity of the sport. There you go.
Can y'all just imagine them sending out a statement? Like if John goes in the cage, like, I'm not going to fight Tom, I will fight Alex. Can you just imagine the UFC putting out that statement? Like, well, we're stripping John because he won't fight. This never happened. It would never happen. Oh, poor GDR.
What year was this? What year was that?
This is 2017.
2017.
And she won the belt in a fight that most people thought she'd lost to Holly Holm. That was the first UFC pay-per-view I ever covered live. One of the most forgettable events I've ever been a part of. Although Dustin Poirier and Jim Miller beat the shit out of each other and that fight ruled. But it's like forgotten by how bad it was. There were multiple like late cheap shots by Germaine de Ridder in that fight.
Yeah. Was it, yeah.
Holly, where she should have lost points.
There was the one that was.
And Holly got hit hard of those late shots too. She got like hit hard. They weren't like little. I'm gonna throw. Like, they got boom. Yeah.
There was one that was egregiously late.
Yeah.
And they brought Cyborg there. Like it was they're just like, all right, you got to fight Chris Cyborg. And she's like, we'll see what happens. But Germaine's stance was always like, she failed a drug test, and I don't want to fight her because of that. That was kind of like the stance her and her team took. So. But yes, maintains that any champion is expected to accept fights against the top contenders in their respective weight classes in order to maintain the integrity of the sport. How far we have come in the last 7 years, ladies and gentlemen. Next question.
Imagine in this world where it's Tom that refuses to fight John because John has failed drug tests.
Oh my God.
It's just
unbelievable. I'm so glad I brought that freaking article up.
Yeah,
go check it out. It's written by Guilherme Cruz. It came out. Photo by Esther Lynn right there as well. June 19th, 2017 is when that article was released.
Wow.
Dakota, the integrity of the sport must be protected at all costs.
At all costs.
Yeah, I don't know.
This preview show has taken a wonderful turn.
People talking about bags of milk in the comments.
Yeah, I see that one.
You guys ever had bagged milk?
Oh my God!
Sorry, we had bagged milk growing up.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I've had powdered milk too. Yeah.
Oh no, we like. Cause like, they did like milk cartons when you went to like elementary school, whatever. Somewhere at the back end of my elementary school tenure, I was like, I guess 4th or 5th grade, they swapped to bagged milk. They were bags
like a Capri
of,
Sun,
except for even less body structure than a Capri Sun. Like it was like a Ziploc bag, only without really a Ziploc. And there was like a straw attached to it, like a Capri Sun, and you just popped it through, and it was hilariously weird.
Wow.
All right.
It was very weird.
One more super chat about from Chase about John, then we'll maybe move on. We'll see.
Chase says, I'm not sure there's anything funnier than what John is doing to Tom. He's literally denying a man everything he's ever worked for in his career and has no shame in doing so.
Chase, I would encourage you to go to the movies. Anchorman is a pretty funny movie. A lot of the Will Ferrell oeuvre is funnier than this. If you haven't seen anything funnier than one of the most notoriously bad people in the sport, doing this to, by all accounts, a pretty good person. I don't know, man. We're different folk, Chase. I guess what I'm trying to say.
I think if you haven't seen the movie Grandma's Boy, you need to see it because that
Incredible
movie is
film.
an underrated friggin' classic.
New high score. What's that mean? Is that good? I use that quote a lot.
That movie is so good. It doesn't get the credit it deserves. It's so friggin' funny.
All right. Another super chat from, thank you, Chase. Another super chat from Chesette.
Chase, I want to know what you want more than anything in your life, and I would like to deny it to you for no reason other than pettiness.
No, your legacy. You're gonna
That's right. My legacy's in tatters, so it's fine.
Let's see. Well, we are 8 days away from UFC 309.
Ooh.
So Chisette asks, UFC 309 versus UFC 230, which card takes the cake for the worst MSG UFC card of all time?
Hold on. I got to pull up 230 to
230
look at
being the
it.
main event being Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis, the co-main event Jacare versus Chris Weidman, and a bunch.
Jared Cannonier, David Branch.
Derek Brunson was on the card.
There were 4 middleweight fights on this main card.
Carl Roberson, Jack Marshman was.
I mean, whatever.
I
We're getting James Lontop, Mauricio Ruffy this next weekend. So, like,
we know what that's all about. Yeah, dude, 230 was rough.
Dude, this is a nip tuck battle for bottom of the barrel here.
I think 309 is better than 230.
I am not certain that's true.
I think it is. Oh, mostly. I'm sorry. Like DC and Derek Lewis is a pretty rotten fight.
That's
Jones
fine. It came
Miocic,
together short notice. I'd rather have DC
Jones
Derek
Miocic
Lewis on 1 month than Jones Miocic on 18
2 years.
months.
But I think Chandler Oliveira being on this card.
I mean,
makes this better than 230.
That's the shining jewel of any of the fights here.
It's just that fight friggin' rocks.
Jonathan Martinez, Marcus McGee is going to be really fun on the prelims.
Yeah,
really
Jim Miller and Damon Jackson's going to be fun. Like, there's going to be fun fights. Chris Weidman getting a fight.
230's worse.
Probably win.
I actually think it's not that. They're not that far apart. 309 is, I think, the worst fight card of the year. Like the pay-per-view, not obviously not fight card.
Worse than 301 or 297?
Oh no, 301 would be the other one running. I think 301's better. In part, Jose Aldo won, and hell yeah.
Yeah, 301 was a fun watch. Just nobody.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just there's not a lot, but no, I think 301's better than 309. I think 309's the worst pay-per-view of the year. What was 290? Wow. 297 was terrible. Other than that event,
DDP. That was Strickland DDP.
Yeah, I remember that. I was trying to look at the other. Oh no, 297 is better. I mean, there's bad parts to it. The pay-per-view portion is definitely better than 309.
Wow,
it's definitely better. There are two real title fights instead of the one fake title fight.
Oh, that's right. There was another title fight on.
Plus, Evloev Allen was both a good fight and an extremely meaningful fight. 309 is really bad. I think 309 is my vote for worst card of the year on paper. Maybe it'll be fun in actuality.
We got Chris Curtis, Marc-Andre Barrios on the main card.
Yeah, that was, MAB. It happened. But we got Neil Magny made the comeback win over Mike Malott. We'll see. Look, Oliveira Chandler's doing a lot of heavy lifting, but you also have to factor this in. There's a very real world where I have to sit with you in the watch party chairs and watch Michael Chandler knock out Charles Oliveira and then say probably some incredibly dumb shit on the microphone afterwards and then yell C at the top and then go watch John Jones fight Stipe and it's a terrible fight. And all that's coming 24 hours after I have to watch Jake Paul commit elder abuse. So I'm going 297 is better than 309.
Okay.
There's a real world where I'm just going to be the most unhappy human being alive watching 309. So
290, yeah, 297, I believe to this point, outside of UFC 300, which we did from the first fight to the UFC 297. That was a long one.
All right. Thank you much.
yeah.
Okay. You have anything else?
All right. Let me see what else we got here.
Thanks, Chesed.
Hopefully no debut jitters for RDR.
Any chance
The
of
octagon jitters will be real for RDR, Jed? You know him better than anybody.
that in the Apex?
I suspect not because he's been fighting for a long time. And this isn't like I believe octagon jitters are a real thing when you're talking about regional fighters coming up because that is different. It is a whole different class of show. If you ever attended a regional MMA event, it is much bigger. Even in the Apex, which is a little obviously not like the same as a big venue, it is still different. There's a professionalism feel, etc. But One Championship is a premier organization. They know what they're doing. He fought there for a long time. He should be fine.
If anything,
If he loses, it's because he sucks, not because he got shook.
Wow, you have to suck to lose to Meerschaert. Jeez.
Kind of.
Wow. Guys in the UFC, you suck. I think the only jitters would be almost like the reverse jitters in the sense that you're fighting in an empty arena in front of a dozen fans, you know? So I think it'll be just the weirdness of it, not the actual jitters. I'm in the UFC.
Fair.
I think it'd be
Honestly,
whatever the opposite of jitters are. I don't know. Like
honestly, I never thought about that. This will be the first time he's done that ever. Like this will be like a glorified sparring session.
Yeah,
really,
you hear about that. Like, fighters
here.
kind of have to take it out of your mind. Like this isn't a sparring session. This is
Yeah.
So
this
maybe,
matters.
Yeah, this matters. Yeah. Okay. Guys, dude, this gentleman here is just paying for Dunkin' Donuts for months.
Appreciate you. Tanvir, how would a Chandler Makhachev fight potentially play out? Jed, I know you are very excited to answer this question.
It would be one of the easiest fights of Islam Makhachev's career. We all know my opinions on Michael Chandler. They are long and listed very clearly. I will begrudgingly admit he can be an effective fighter, even if I still think he sucks. And he is effective in a way that means he could absolutely just kill Charles Oliveira because he almost did it the first time they fought. I genuinely feel if I even remove my personal feelings for Michael Chandler, I do not think he can win more than like 1 out of 100 fights with Islam. Unless Islam is just entirely overlooking him, just comes in the worst way possible. It is a horrifically bad matchup for him. Like all Chandler is like one big single explosive shot and a power double. Well, the power double thing is just a non-starter functionally. And it's really the whole grappling situation is. And like Islam Makhachev, look, he does not have the style or panache of, Anderson Silva or Israel Adesanya. He is statistically like the best defensive fighter in MMA history. He's not the best one, but he just doesn't get hit because he is extremely good at managing range. And when you close range, he just closes and clamps down on you. You can't hit him. He's really, really, really good at not getting hit. So Michael Chandler can't do anything to him. The fight, I don't think will ever happen. I hope not, because that would mean Michael Chandler got himself back to a title shot, and that'll suck. I think he is uniquely poorly positioned to fight Islam Makhachev.
All right. And our last one before we get out of here, because we've gone 70 minutes almost for UFC Apex 100.
I mean, this is history.
This is Apex
It
100.
It deserves 100 minutes.
Did you see the graphic?
Oh,
Did you see the graphic?
Look at that. It should be 100 minutes and 100 seconds. So, no, 100 minutes. There they are.
Also, Matthew Whittam, yes, I know that one's middleweight is 205 pounds. That is ostensibly without weight cutting involved, because that's how one is set up to theoretically operate. My point being, I have suspicions that Anatoly Malikin has never weighed 185 pounds in his life and could not do so. He was born weighing 200 pounds. Yeah. Look at the size of that guy.
And our last comment of the day.
This is the first UFC event held in Nevada since cannabis was officially removed from the state's list of banned substances. What retired fighter not named Diaz would have most loved this rule change?
While you think about it, I have an answer.
The Diaz's aren't retired, so.
Well, oh yeah, apparently one's fighting next couple weeks.
Great point. Nick's fighting in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, what retired fighter? I would have to say Pat Healy. Pat Healy, in his first UFC fight coming up from Strikeforce, submitted Jim Miller. They were initially awarded the fight of the night. So after the fight, Pat Healy was popped for the marijuana, so he got a no contest, and the UFC took away his fight bonus and gave it to Jim Miller. Pat Healy went on to lose his next 5 UFC fights. So I would go.
God, what a great pull.
I hadn't even thought of that, but that's probably the best possible answer. Pat Healy, Bam Bam was so weird because he was so good, and it fell off. Oh, like he was an extremely good fighter, and it just collapsed like overnight, and not in like a Tony Ferguson somewhat predictable way of been around a long time, fought like kind of felt that when Tony fell off, it would fall hard. He just cratered.
Never won a fight. Never won a fight after that in a major organization, and just kind of faded away into MMA obscurity.
Yeah, who?
That's crazy.
I don't know. I've never been a big personal user of such items, and so that has just never been a part of the sport I've cared at all about. Of like, who does that? It's like, they got popped for it. Okay, and I just forget it.
Want to know who Pat Healy's last win was against?
Oh, who?
The name we all know.
Oh, really?
Brendan Loughnane.
I would have never pulled that.
Where? What organization?
ACB.
Oh, okay.
July 2017. That was Pat Healy's last win. He got knocked out in his next fight like 6 months later in the first round. Also for ACB. But he did beat Brendan Loughnane.
Shout out Pat Healy. And
Pat Healy.
And one
also, so we're clear, Pat Healy's run of losses, little fella by the name of Habib, Bobby Green, Jorge Masvidal, Gleason Tebow. That's a real tough stretch of fighters to have to fight.
Yeah, dude. He's fought some good dudes. His previous loss before that was against Josh Thompson, Strikeforce. Jake Ellenberger, Rory Markham.
He was a top 15 lightweight.
Names back in the days.
Absolutely.
He was top 15
at the time, absolutely.
Yep.
For sure. For sure.
Yep. And real quick, because this should be a quick answer. Last super chat.
What do you think will be the 310 main event?
Shavkat Usman.
Casey?
Shavkat Usman.
Pantoja Asakura.
I do very quickly, because I listened to BTL yesterday, obviously. I watched it, didn't listen. Not live, though. Shouts to Marcel. I think it was Marcel that said it, and then I'd never considered this as a thing. There is like a genuine risk to putting Asakura Pantoja as your main event because Asakura hasn't made 125 in like forever. And so outside of the business part of it, there is a realistic outcome that he just misses weight and then your title fight is off, or it doesn't work out. And then suddenly your title fight main event is cooked. And now where are you at? This isn't remotely a pay-per-view if you don't have that on it. So I did not even consider that when we were thinking about it as it was all unfolding. You got to you got to get somebody else in there. Shavkat Usman seems like the fight.
Is there a backup on that card?
Not that I know.
For that.
Mike,
That's so weird. Like, how do you not like? Whatever.
They might just have like Royval go out there and be the backup.
They 100% should.
Yeah, UFC do your thing.
Yeah.
But that's weird.
I mean, if we don't find out by like this weekend, I think they're just gonna go with Pantoja and Asakura. Like we're a month away. Like we gotta do something. We are
Unless
right
it's
there.
John Jones, Alex Pereira.
In a month's notice, John ain't doing that. John ain't fighting Poatan on a month's notice.
Bags of money.
Can you imagine if Poatan, all the work Ankalaev's trying to do on social media, and when I say Ankalaev, I mean probably his manager, and then Pereira fights somebody else. Oh boy, on that same card. That tough scenes.
Poor Ilia Topuria, who has his hands on the Fighter of the Year trophy. He's holding it, and then Alex would just yoink it from him.
We'll see. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow. Maybe we'll get a little promo package. Maybe they'll announce it. If it's Shavkat Usman, fine. I'm okay. That's a great main event. That'll do.
Ton of sense.
Usman making 170.
But if Bilal can fight,
who knows?
If Bilal can fight in April, then just don't do it. Like, just wait.
Make 170. It's fine. Just do the quick wait. We're in, we're out. Nobody cares.
Slap the scale.
Who is upset if they don't weigh in like properly? No one. It's like, he looks about 185. Good enough.
Just go to Abu Dhabi, slam the scale. Just bring that guy in.
If I could let Dana White UFC make me the weight czar, you don't need to do official weigh-ins. I just eyeball folks and I say whether the fight's fine or not. Like, hey, it's good. Yeah, these guys seem about right. We're okay.
Yeah, bring Jet into New York. John Jones, no matter what he weighs, will weigh 267 pounds and be stripped of the heavyweight title. So maybe that's a good thing to do.
You missed weight.
What can you do? Sorry, I can't do it. You're out.
Put my foot on the while I'm doing it. Just my foot on the scale. I don't know. You weigh 312 pounds. It's really odd.
More on this tomorrow, everybody. Have a good night.
Love y'all.